we times do the live stream.
Oh, all right. It's an open one, is it? Yeah, okay.
So it should only be 20 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
All right, and I'll see you this afternoon.
Thanks for all your help. Yeah, I know. Today I'm having real trouble seeing people and remembering who was asking questions. I don't know why. Anyway, yeah, no, thanks a lot.
I'll see you later.
Appreciate it. Yeah, okay. Okay, so this is an open workshop, isn't it? And you've got the live stream going? Great, excellent, thank you. So welcome, Eric, and you're here to give us an update on public transport. So over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. So I've got my PowerPoint presentation here. I propose to run through it. There's a lot of, I guess, information and data and updates in here. So if I run briefly through it and then I guess just open up for questions and discussion.
Okay, cool.
Thank you. Cool. Works. So the first slide is just our ongoing reporting of the patronage of the main services, Cambridge to Hamilton and Te Awamutu to Hamilton. And it's, I guess the key part further down this slide is we've got our new services that commenced in April. So this doesn't have that new service in it. So this is a historical data. And then, so part of the information we get from the regional council is the bus stops that get the most use. And of interest here is that Te Awamutu, the information centre, is really popular. And then the next two down are the transport centre in Hamilton, and or actually the next three. And then there's opposite the town hall in Victoria Street for Cambridge. So that's just an interesting bit of data. Basically, it's kind of showing where people are going to in Hamilton. Time of day report, predictable. It's a commuter service, so you can see the peak numbers early in the morning and more in the afternoon, and less use in the middle of the day. Mm-hmm. And then we're starting to get some information from the regional council for the local trips, and this is sort of an evolving data source for us. But you can see that the trips, for example, the top line Cambridge, that means within Cambridge, trips within the town, and the next one down is between Leamington and Cambridge. So there is that use starting to occur.
Can I just point out, sorry about this, but those numbers under 2023 do not add up, like October, November, December, and the total do not, yeah, the total doesn't match the individual columns. It does for 2024, but not for 2023. And I wasn't sure why that was.
Through you, Madam Chair, that's me. I made a late change to the presentation. Initially, it was comparing 4 months with 3 months, and I removed September. I then updated the totals, but obviously I didn't upload it back to ECM prior to it being loaded into diligence. So that's me. My apologies for that. It's trying to do the apples with apples thing, and I've made it more confusing. So apologies.
So the data's good. The data's good. Yep.
So going forward, this slide will show that the Hamilton bus services are providing a degree of coverage services within the towns. And then I think particularly going forward, it'll be interesting to see how Kiki interacts on that one.
Yeah.
So back in April, we had the opening ceremony in the town hall in Cambridge for the new services. Thank you, Claire, for your really good speech. Yeah, I think they went off really well, and all had a trip in the new buses. And Yeah, so both depots are operational and the bus services contractor is just boots and all in delivering services. And then just a note that there are still some diesel buses being used pending the arrival of the latest or the last double-decker electric buses, which are due in a few months. So yeah, and it's a brief just confirmation of the extended services, the extended hours and more frequent services. And so so for Cambridge, the bus route is actually very similar to, I think it's actually the same as what we've had previously, or very similar apart from Pope Terrace by Pengover. So that's the route. And then maybe later we can talk about all the different bus stops and pickup points. There's probably a good discussion in that. Te Muru, so that's quite different because it includes Kiki now. So that's that one. And then the total mobility services or service, again, just a patronage number on that. It just shows steady growth. And then I think at the last workshop we talked about, there was funding from the Regional Council for community service providers. So this is the actual allocation of funds. I think their total budget was just on $200,000. And we've highlighted in green the local trusts that are providing services that have benefited from that. So I think there's something in this that these are really targeted services and they are now getting support from local government. Okay, and then I think there have been questions in the past regarding, well, these three questions. So the new buses, they do have the racks in the front. I think the question came from you, Andrew, and yes, they can take e-bikes. I think it's a weight issue in terms of batteries. Yeah. And it just for clarity, the mode share for public transport, the best data is from the census some 6 years ago now, and it's sitting around 3 to 6%. And I think the big query, the intricacy in that data is the school buses. So it depends how you interpret school buses as public transport, but that's a big number. Yeah, and then there is, I think there's some discussion about the bus reliability and the KPIs on the contractor. Yeah. And that's the end of the presentation. Yeah, open the floor for queries.
Okay, Liz, and then Roger.
Hey, just a good point around the school students heading on public transport.
Yeah.
I know that it's different for Cambridge and Te Awamutu, how the Ministry of Education may operate, and I need a greater level of understanding, if we can, please. That's really just something for, if you can just provide some clarity on that. I know that there are lots of students that will take the regional council buses. There are other buses the Ministry of Education need provide, coaches that will take students from Waipart into Hamilton cities to their high schools. So I need to know which buses have those students on. Do you know what I'm saying? I find it a bit unclear because it's different for Te Awamutu and different for Cambridge.
Yep. So Te Awamutu has those specific bus routes to Boys High. So I think at the next workshop I can present that data. So yeah, you're right. There's regional council services. There's some private school bus services as well, and then there are just MOE services, and they do interact with us. They share in terms of using some of our bus stop infrastructure. So yeah.
Yeah, so just on that, Eric, I'd like to understand when we see, total usage and things like that, which I should presume is from the regional council, does that include any school bus trips or not? Yeah, or when does it and when doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah, I think it'd be incredibly complex actually to work it out. Yeah.
So my understanding is the patronage data in the first slide.
Yeah.
it's just the bulk data that includes,
Oh, it
Tho-
does
those-
include? Oh,
yeah,
right.
those
Yeah,
school runs,
all
yeah.
services.
that's my
right.
understanding.
Oh, okay. Mm,
It
Yeah.
it includes the separate independent bus.
No, not independent. No, so in the schedule, especially for TA, there's some targeted buses run by the regional council, that are like the school run buses.
mm,
And they're very slightly different to the main. So they only run once or twice a day for the schools.
yeah.
But yeah, and I'll just,
So just for
Yeah.
clarity, I know that there's from Te Awamutu, there's one Sacred Heart bus, one Boys High bus, one St John's bus. There's a lot of buses coming out of Te Awamutu that are just for those schools. And I believe they are regional council buses, and they're probably included in this.
Yeah.
For Cambridge, it's quite different. So that's where I'm getting confused with the data. So yeah, some clarity around that would be great.
Okay,
the,
that's cool.
yeah. So Cambridge, you're right, it's quite different. The only difference in Cambridge is there's a bus in the morning that goes past the high school.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah.
Okay, all right. And now I've got a question from Roger and then Mike. I'm getting there. I'm a slow learner.
Yeah, and I suppose my comment is around the short distance trips, which are really important. And it does, I think, when you look at the comparison between Cambridge and TA, there is a possible interpretation of the higher level of short trips could well be because of the inclusion of school transport on the local PT service. So when we get the hopefully more frequent response back on stats from the regional authority, the identification of students in that early transport number or short trip number would be important for us to understand, because I think, and I think this is really, really interesting for us to have a look at. And when you consider the quantum of those short trips against the number of trips, we're still seeing quite a small, have you worked out the percentage at all? Because you don't know which trips they're on, do we? So, and I think that's the other reason of wanting to know what departures these numbers are on and where the short trips are occurring, and of those short trips, which are the school children that are on the buses. So that, I think it's going to be interesting when we do get that information through. Did you say we're going to get, I got the impression last week that they're going to be able, or they're getting, so they may be able to give us monthly stats and breakdowns of this.
We get a reasonably good monthly report from the regional council, but not quite at that level of detail.
Yeah,
So-
but they should have that detail, shouldn't they?
They have shown it to us in the past, but we haven't been getting like a regular report on that, but we can raise it again with them now.
Would you?
Yeah.
Because the B
Yeah.
card is now fully working, isn't it? Eh? And the B card tells us which are students and which are at full fares?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a split.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
There in the data, we get that.
Good.
Okay,
But looking at the numbers on the short trips, there can't be any students,
yeah,
or
they're pretty low.
they're really low. We're only talking about 4 a day or something.
Well, you're right. Yeah.
So
But there are, because that's why the extension was put up, and I'm talking about Cambridge now, the extension to the route was put up past the high school. So it'll be interesting to see if that extension is actually providing. And when did that extension start?
I think that's been going for a while.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, that's, it's definitely, now my understanding has been operating for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
So that should be showing in some numbers.
so
Yeah.
that's what really stood out for me, is how low those intra-town
Yeah.
trips are. And will be interesting to see if there's more uptake as time goes by.
Yeah,
But I mean, it's, they're clearly the bulk of the users are travelling to Hamilton.
yeah. I found it quite interesting when they talked about the increased number of services. That was actually greater than the number that we had in phase 2 of our business plan, because we were only going up to a total of 26, so a total of 13 return trips. But this has gone up to 20 or 19, 20. So they've actually been more generous than what we had in our business plan. So it'll be really in, and what I think, and we'll have to wait and see when we get the numbers, but is that a justifiable allocation of whatever resource we're putting in to PT? Because if we're paying for empty buses going backwards and forwards, when that resource could maybe be applied to an on-demand local service, but you've got to give it time to work out.
Yes, Phil.
Because, yeah, just adding on to that with the bus from Cambridge High into, that's only coming from Cambridge High into Cambridge. It's not, it's on the route back from Hamilton, isn't it? So when it leaves Cambridge, it doesn't go to the high school first and then to Hamilton.
Does in the morning, I think, does in the morning.
Oh,
In the morning, yeah, I'll confirm.
when it leaves Victoria, the eyesight or St Andrew's Church, it goes to the high school or goes to Hamilton?
So in the morning, so the bus that leaves, here we go, where are we?
In the morning, you got.
So we've got the 8 o'clock bus in the morning from the town hall goes, no, sorry, it's the, I'm trying to read this. Cambridge to Hamilton. So Hamilton to Cambridge, it goes, so the bus that leaves Hamilton at 10 to 8, it goes from the velodrome to the high school, and then it goes into town. And then the bus that leaves by the town hall in Cambridge at 3:30 in the afternoon, that swings past the high school on the way to Hamilton.
And,
Yeah.
okay, and what about the one in the morning, when it leaves in the morning? Does it go via the high school?
No, it doesn't, no. So this is a Hamilton aimed service, but so Hamilton residents going to school at Cambridge.
The school bus route is only the one in the afternoon coming from bringing students into town after school at 3 o'clock, sort of thing. It's not going in the morning, going out to the high school.
It's taking the kids back to Hamilton from the high school.
To Hamilton, not via the Cambridge High School.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Oh, yes, Liz.
Yeah, sorry, Eric. So just going back to, so Roger and I are very excited about public transport, right? Because we both sit on the future-proof public transport committee. So now we're like putting boots and all on this thing. So sorry for all the questions. One of the things I did talk to Dawn about, and that is in the last future-proof meeting, was that we are still, of course, really hopeful in the long term for a internal public transport hop on, hop off, or whatever it's going to look like, but an internal public transport system for Cambridge and hope for Te Awamutu. So we don't have any money in our enhanced annual plan for that. That's my understanding. And really, this is a regional council deal. But there were coaches that were taken off the Hamilton to Hamilton Airport route that have been diverted elsewhere now. That would have been ideal, I think, in my mind, for a trial to consider. So I guess I'm really, really keen to pursue this, and I think we're going to have to get a little bit bolshy. You know, we will never win a numbers game when we're competing against the city. So we will always have, you know, we will always be on the back foot there. The need is always going to be greater in the city because of their population. But we are a growing, you know, a district, and I think we need to really just kind of stamp our name on our patch as well. So I don't know how we progress this, but I'd really like to see some kind of plan going forward as to how we might progress this. I don't have the answers necessarily, but I just want to kind of keep pushing that barrow and I do the same in that future-proof meeting as well. And yeah, is there a way forward here? This is possibly an LTP thing, but there's no reason to waste a year. And when I know that those two nice minivans are sitting now doing other routes, that would have been perfect for Waipa in my mind.
So our LTP does have provision for the coverage services, but not starting until year 3. So year 3 in Cambridge and year 4 in TA Kiki. So there is a, yeah, so there, and it's to the tune of averaging 350K a year per town. So so we have an LTP provision for that. And it's based on quite a simple, like an hourly service, 9 a.m. till 3 p.m. So it's a very limited service. Yeah, and an exact route design through the towns is up for grabs, I guess. But yeah, so there's, yeah, so the LTP does have the ability in there. It's in the system. The other thing I would comment is that the patronage on our bus services now are, on average, a lot better than a lot of the Hamilton services. So I think the Hamilton, they've got a few, stars, like for example, the Orbiter and stuff. But a lot of those other local services, I think our patronage is way better. So I think we could be pretty proud of that. When it comes to their surplus buses from the other trials, I'm just not sure how that would be funded.
Yeah.
So if there was ability to do a trial, I don't know how we'd fund that trial.
Yeah, can I come in with that? Because it's likely that the rating for public transport is going to change at the end of next year. Like the submissions are in already for the review of 2 suggested rating regimes, which suggests quite strongly that our public transport that we're paying for now currently and which we rate for will be a regional council direct rating of the Cambridge and TA ratepayers. That may mean then that we see that the money that we currently include in our annual plan will no longer be there because it'll be rated by the regional transport. But the message that we're getting very strongly is that if we want to go for another service for Cambridge, then it will be on a trial basis, and we would have to be prepared to pay for something towards that trial. Like they're not going to do a trial without us contributing some resource towards that trial. So the way that they're saying it, and I directly asked this question last week, how does that work then? And they said, well, if you commit to a trial, then the regional council would actually invoice Waipa District Council for the money to fund the trial, which means that even in the LTP going forward, even if we don't have a provision for our local service, the existing Hamilton service, we would still need to put some provision in to hopefully fund a trial of a on-demand orbiter type of service.
So we have to wait for year 3 of the...
No, it'll be a totally different situation because our business, I'm taking that our business plan, once the funding goes to regional council, then our business financial plan for public transport will actually be no longer a relevant document. So we would have to review our future commitment to fund public transport?
Yeah, that's assuming that that new system is implemented by the regional council.
Well, it looks as if it's going to be, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I'd just like to say that I'm in support of localised, like Orbiter service, you know, hop on, hop off. Okay, and it's obviously Cambridge is really keen for it, but the numbers says it's more likely to be better supported in Te Awamutu and Kihikihi. And so I want that any decision made is based on likely patronage, because I'm really surprised that even though Cambridge has got a higher population, it's the Te Awamutu residents that are actually using public transport. Yeah, so please don't assume that just because Cambridge councillors are asking for the service, if you look at the hard, cold facts, it would make sense to introduce it into Te Awamutu and Kihikihi.
But if you ask the elderly at their rest homes, they're crying out for it.
Well, Phil, I understood that rest homes actually provide their own minibus services. Yeah,
They do, some
Yeah.
of them,
yeah.
but they are crying
Well,
out for it.
they
They're
need to
wanting
get
a-
into our
To
statistics.
be able to go to the swimming pool and go to the new medical centre when it's open, or the new supermarket when that's open.
Well, they need to be in our
They're
statistics. They've
crying
got to
out
be,
for it.
Card.
They
Yeah.
have been for a while.
Yes, Liz?
Claire, I totally agree with you. You know, we will always need to check our data, understand where the need is best for the district. No doubt around that. So I guess my question to Eric and Dawn is, you know, how do we progress this? Happy to be involved. I mean, obviously we've got more public transport meetings at Future Proof, and we can fly the flag for Waipa, but we kind of need to understand what the strategy is going to be and what's the plan, because we can be the mouthpiece, and it's just understanding kind of as a group where are we trying to are we prepared to commit some dollars? And I guess we'll have a good conversation around this in our enhanced annual plan and LTP. I'm going to put both in there because I think it's worth the discussion in both spaces. So look, thanks. I think this has been helpful just so you understand where kind of, you know, where we're at and the conversations we're having elsewhere.
And I agree with, because if you look at the total number of passengers carried with a smaller population, you know, TA is 2/3 the population of Cambridge, and yet the public transport, the PT volume is 20% higher, you know, so they're obviously, but it's also noticeable that in the short trips, there's fewer short trips in TA. So the volume of people actually going to Hamilton is far, far higher. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Great discussion. So can we wrap things up?
No, can I ask another question?
Certainly, Roger.
And I didn't ask this last week, but when our double-decker buses come, and there are only 2 of those, and we've got 4 single-decker electrics, so how are they going to use, obviously, the doubles will go on at the peak times. So how are they going to work that? Are they going to have double-deckers stuck in the charging yard for half the day, or are we going to see the double-deckers going empty around the rest of the time? Just, it's kind of this plant utilization anomaly, which, you know, it kind of doesn't make sense.
Thanks, Roddy. So I don't know the answer to that. Yeah, I know the intent is to provide that, provide for the peaks, especially in the morning. But yeah, I'll find out. But I don't know what their schedule, their detailed scheduling is for that bus midday and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Eric. It's great to get this information. We really appreciate it, actually. Yeah, it's good. All right, so that draws our workshop to a close and finished for service delivery. You guys can have your lunch and then we'll be back at 1 o'clock. Thank you. Cool.
Thanks, Kate.